Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to International Women's Day 2024. I am going to hand the mic over to our co-hosts, Manhattanville College, and I'm delighted to welcome Christine Daney, who is the Provost and Executive Vice President of Manhattanville College. Christine.
Oh my goodness.
Thank you so much for the warm welcome. And I want to welcome you all. Some of you have been at Manhattanville for quite some time, but for the rest of you who are visiting us, welcome to Manhattanville. It's a wonderful little piece of Westchester County. I'm Christine Daney. I'm the provost here at Manhattanville. And generally, I have to also explain what that means because most people have no idea what a provost does. So I'm the vice president who oversees academic affairs as well as student affairs. So all of the academic programs, the colleges and deans, as well as all of the student affairs, things like clubs and organizations and Res Life. That's all under my purview. So I care very deeply about the experiences our students have here at Manhattanville, and many of those experiences include connecting with things beyond Manhattanville in the Westchester County area. So wonderful connection with you all. Just so you all don't, in case you don't know about Manhattanville, it was founded in 1841 by a really progressive group of nuns, the Society of the Sacred Heart in New York City, and they began offering undergraduate degrees in 1916. Manhattanville at that point in time was located in Manhattanville, which is part of Harlem. But that campus was taken over by the CUNY system in eminent domain, and Manhattanville was relocated to this location in 1952. Since that time, Manhattanville has been thriving in this space and contributing more to Westchester County. But that group of nuns that founded Manhattanville, while we're now non-secular, they were quite progressive, as I mentioned, and they really believed in reaching out to the community. They believed in educating women, supporting the involvement of the women they were educating in the issues that were prevalent at whatever day it was that the women were attending the college. They were very interested in issues of equity, in helping to alleviate the systemic issues surrounding poverty, and things like helping community members who were dealing with issues of substance abuse. So it's a really interesting progressive group of nuns that got the students who came to Manhattanville quite embedded in the community and thinking about the types of issues that the community was experiencing. One thing I want to say about that is it was for these women, a opportunity to contribute greatly to the community with the philosophy that no one can lift themselves up by their bootstraps, but instead it is the web of a community that all connects us all and brings strength. And so I think it's very fitting for you all to be here today at Manhattanville because the philosophy, the mission of the institution really resonates with the types of issues that you all are grappling with as well. And so I'm excited to also today to see some Clark scholars here who are living the mission of Manhattanville, which includes experiential learning, again, just like those nuns had the students do way back in the day, going out into the community, connecting with real issues of the day, and understanding that a college education isn't just about being book smart, but about putting the things that you're learning to use in the community to better your community. So thank you all.
Thank you very much, Christine. And thanks also to Craig Donnelly and his Clark Scholars who have been supporting this program all the way, including sponsoring our reception after the program. Thank you. Thank you to Manhattanville. On behalf of the Board of Directors of UNA, USA Westchester County, we are delighted that you've all joined us, both in the room and on Zoom. Thank you for coming. For those on Zoom, please put your camera on speaker view for the main program. You will not be called on to speak, but you can put questions in the chat box. For all of you in the room, when we begin the program, we will pass out cards. And if you're interested in writing a question on the card, you can get one. We want to also recognize our long-term partners and co-sponsors of this program, the Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority Incorporated. Please stand. Alpha Kappa Alpha. They are our long-term partners, and also the Links Incorporated. Some of you are in both. The Links Incorporated, our long-term partners. Thank you very much for being here. Finally, I would like to recognize some of the great leaders in Westchester. I don't think Mary Jane Shimsky has come yet. I believe some of them will be coming later, so we'll recognize them later. Finally, we're delighted to receive a video message from our Congressman Jamal Bowman, and he has sent a really lovely video message which outlines the importance of today's theme and also touches on his initiative from last year, sending a letter to Biden, President Biden, requesting that he bring the issue of the Convention on the Elimination of Discrimination Against Women to the Senate floor. So the video, Derek, can you cue up the video? Yeah.
Peace and love, everyone. It's Congressman Jamal here. I hope everyone is doing well. I want to say thank you to the United Nations Association of Westchester for inviting me to speak. I want to give a huge shout out to tonight's honorees, Sharani Martinez of Miami and J. Javed Hines of Hartsdale, for their incredible contributions to the economic empowerment of women in Westchester. Please keep going, y'all. Generations of activists have fought for women to have equal rights in our society. Yet we continue to find ourselves in a place where women are disproportionately underpaid, ignored, and victims of harassment. Women are still paid just 81 cents to a man's dollar. Black women are paid 65 cents, and Latino women are paid 61 cents to a man's dollar. But you know, they did a study on who the best CEOs of companies are using all objective metrics, and women were at the top of that list. No surprise to the people in this room, for sure. Unequal pay, coupled with a lack of strong maternity leave policies and worker protections, leave too many women struggling at work. We are one of the only developed nations who does not have paid leave. That is insane. To address this and the many other forms of discrimination that women face every day, I wrote a letter with Congresswoman Eleanor Holmes Norton urging President Biden to support the ratification of the UN Convention on the Elimination of All Forms of Discrimination Against Women. Can't believe a letter needed to be written to urge the president to support this ratification. The convention will protect all women's political, economic, social, cultural, and civil rights, as well as their fundamental freedoms. This should be considered the bare minimum. To ensure full quality and build a society where women have the resources they need to thrive, we need to expand the child tax credit once and for all, finally and permanently. We need to fund workforce development training, guarantee abortion access, and so much more. It is critical that we all advocate for policies that root out sexism in all its forms and dismantle the patriarchal structures that continue to create barriers for women. Let me say that again. Dismantle the patriarchal structures that continue to create barriers for women. Like racism and other forms of discrimination, this is so embedded. Patriarchy is so embedded in our society. It is conscious, it is unconscious, it is in our DNA. As a nation, we cannot be a leader in civil rights unless we advocate for and guarantee the rights of all people in this country, and women are at the top of that list. And please continue to fight and organize and push and support so that we have more leaders at every level of government, in small businesses and large businesses, in communities as activists, but also in our lifetime, let's make sure we see the first woman president of the United States of America. Thank you so much, y'all. Peace and love.
Thank you, Jamal Bowman. He is our hero, and UNA Westchester is leading the effort in New York State to get CEDAW adopted in the whole New York State. We're the only county in the state so far that's gotten it started, implementation of CEDAW in Westchester County, but we're working together with other UNA chapters to get it statewide and then nationwide. Our group, the UNA Association, is a grassroots organization that advocates for the work of the UN and tries to get everybody in the US and who's interested in the work of the UN involved in getting engaged with the work. It's the largest network of advocates in support of the UN in the whole world, actually, over 20,000 members. Our Westchester chapters involved in public programs like the one today and several others that engage local citizens on the work of the UN and its partners. You can join at unausa.org or go over to the table where Ronnie is sitting, and she'll help you join the UNA. It's free for students. Thank you to all our dedicated board members who are here in person and on Zoom today. Board members, could you please stand up? Ambassador, Yana, Lily, and please feel free to have a chat with our board members during the reception at the end of the program. Our education committee is again organizing a media contest for middle and high school students. The theme is food insecurity, and there are some forms over there if any of you are interested or you have children who are interested. So just visit the table over there. The deadline is April 18th. Now, to begin the program, International Women's Day is commemorated on March 8th. It has been celebrated since 1911 when women in Europe and the US were advocating for the right to vote and the right to work. At the time, the fire at the Triangle Shirtwaist Factory killed 146 people, mainly young women, which gave motivation to the effort to celebrate International Women's Day. The rallies led in 1911 demanded that women get the right to vote and to work. The UN made women's equality a center of its platform. In 1945, the Charter of the UN is the first international treaty that states that men and women have equal rights. The UN started recognizing March 8th in 1975, which was the International Year of Women. Yes, it's time to express solidarity on women's equal rights, and it's still a holiday in many European countries. The 68th session of the Commission on the Status of Women meets tomorrow in New York City at UN headquarters and will continue until the 22nd of March. It's the body that sets the framework for Sustainable Development Goal number 5, women's equality, gender equality and women's empowerment for all nations and peoples. This year's priority theme at CSW 68 is Invest in Women, Accelerate Progress, which is exactly the theme that we are going to address today. And now to kick off the program, we have an International Women's Day message from the Secretary General of the United Nations. Derek?
On International Women's Day, we celebrate women and girls around the world, and we applaud all they have achieved in the fight for equality. Women and girls have made great gains, demolishing barriers, dismantling stereotypes, and driving progress towards a more just and equal world. Yet they face immense obstacles. Billions of women and girls face marginalization, injustice, and discrimination, while the persistent epidemic of violence against women disgraces humanity. Our world still reflects millennia of male-dominated power relations, and progress is under attack with a fierce backlash against women's rights. At our current rate, legal equality is some 300 years away. We must move much faster. On International Women's Day, we stand with women and girls fighting for their rights, and we commit to accelerating progress. This year's theme, Invest in Women, reminds us that ending the patriarchy requires money on the table. We must support women's organizations on the front line, and we must invest in programs to end violence against women and to drive women's inclusion and leadership in economies, digital technologies, peace building, and climate action. This all depends on unlocking finance for sustainable development so that countries have funds available to invest in women and girls. We also need to increase the number of women leaders in business, finance, central banks, and finance ministries. This can help drive investments in policies and programs that respond to women and girls' needs. Women's rights are a proven path to fair, peaceful, prosperous societies. It is good for us all. Together, let's take urgent action to make it a reality, and I thank you.
Thank you to the Secretary General. His message sums up what we are going to be talking about today. Now I am honored to introduce our keynote speaker. Please have a seat. Come in. Dr. Geeta Mehta is a professor at Columbia University's Graduate School of Architecture, Planning, and Preservation, and is the founder of Asia Initiatives, a nonprofit organization that works with underserved communities. With underserved communities to help improve livelihoods, neighborhoods, and the environment. Geeta is the innovator of social capital credits, a virtual currency for social good that has won the World-Changing Ideas Award from the Fast Company and the prizes from MIT, Solve, and others. She has been recognized by Women News as one of the 21 leaders of the 21st century and a Purpose Prize Fellow. I just want to mention one other thing. Her 7th book, Sustainable Cities for the Future, was launched at the G20 meeting in India in 2023. Please welcome Dr. Mehta. Thank you. You're welcome. And you're all cleaned up.
Thank you. I'm so honored to be here to speak to you all at this very important event. But it's heartbreaking to hear the UN Secretary General say that it's going to take 300 years for women to have equality. Who in the audience thinks that that's too long and we can't wait that long? Totally. I think that this is really a call to action to say that, this is totally unacceptable. And he's so right that there is a pushback against women's movements in so many countries, which is like really, on the other hand, I feel happy that that's happening. That means we are making an impact. So the really conservative, people think that, oh, we are making too much progress. So let's just take that in a positive way. So let me speak a little bit about my work today, which is totally focused on, let me see how I can move this. Okay. Right. So I'm going to talk a little bit about Asia Initiatives because the issue of women's empowerment that you are seeing in the United States today are actually so much more severe in many other countries. Right. So most of my work is with Asia Initiative, is in India, in Nepal, but we're also working in Kenya, in the United States with formerly incarcerated women, and also in Taiwan and Chile. So Asia Initiatives, but we're actually working around the women around the world. And the main thesis is that women's empowerment empowers communities, empowers everyone. And I think that was a message from Congressman Bowman. Yes, so all our work is pro-women, pro-poor, and pro-community. And our other thesis is that what is our wealth? And the provost also said that you can't just lift yourself with bootstraps. You need a community to do that, right? So community, that translates into social capital, right? So money is not our only capital. In my thinking, money is only a means to build social capital and ecological capital. But right now in our society, money is like people who have money can multiply that and people who don't can. So there's huge inequities because I think we are too focused on financial capital. So my work focuses on ecological and social capital. Even the World Bank has, a while ago, they said that social capital is the glue that holds communities together, without which there can be no economic growth or human well-being. Without it, society at large will collapse. And in today's world, we are seeing many sad examples of that. So how do we, how do you translate that into action? So what we did is we developed this community currency for social good. Let me go back. Yeah, we call it SOCs, or social capital credits, because money is too much about just making more money, but we need to have systems to build community. So this currency, any community in the world can use it. We get requests from around the world for communities who want to use it, and we welcome that. It's completely open source, and we support any community that comes to us. And you earn this currency by helping your community. And it goes into your app and your web platform, and then you spend it on your own personal education, upskilling, microcredit, healthcare, whatever these communities need. And it's decided by, sorry, it's very fast. Okay. So it's decided by people themselves in what we call Socratic dialogues. That means you sit with the community and over a couple of days, you decide, or people say, what is it that they need, but what are they willing to do about it, right? Nothing comes for free. You have to make an effort, which actually that effort brings communities together towards a common goal. So these are, you are seeing pictures in Pune and in Washington, D.C., where a Socratic dialogue is happening. So people will develop their own SOCs, earning and redeeming menus. And usually, what do you earn SOCs for? It can be tutoring younger children, planting trees, water smart agriculture, caring for public spaces, or community safety patrol, whatever it is that a community needs. So the menu is different in every place, and it's very, very local. It's hyper local. And what can you get for your SOCs that you earned? Digital financial literacy. And this theme of today's is invest in women, accelerate progress. So financial literacy is super important for everyone, but particularly for women who are trying to work their way out of poverty. And so financial literacy is very important. Job readiness skills. How do you, enter the jobs of the 21st century, healthcare, upskilling. Amazingly, in this country, not everyone has healthcare. This is the richest country in the world. So you can very well imagine what the situation is in many developing countries, because a health crisis in the family can just derail your economic empowerment completely. So we are very focused on that and on upskilling. People may have some kind of a job, but they want to, work on that further or become entrepreneurs. And people in our projects who earn a lot of SOCs become SOC stars, and they can apply for grant to start their own business, small business, and microloans. So we are working, although called Asia Initiative, we are working in many countries, including US, and we've been very lucky to receive all sorts of honors and prizes. And so our 5 initiatives are about education and technology, about microcredit, about environment, and about health and community initiatives. I think the environmental piece is very connected to social capital, Because if communities don't come together and don't begin to think about their environment, the rivers are getting degraded. There's so many drought areas. I was just in the Caribbean, where some of the Caribbean countries are going to lose half their land to seawater rise, and then like places like Jamaica, they're surrounded by water, but they don't have enough fresh water to drink. So they import water. So this kind of crisis is becoming bigger and bigger. And women in all these situations, whether it's war or it's drought or it's typhoons or hurricanes, women usually suffer the most. They are at the bottom of this whole thing. So I think empowering women is really the key. Our two flagship programs are Cascade of Upskilling and Cascade of Learning. In Cascade of Upskilling, if you have a skill and you can teach it to somebody else, you will earn socks. We believe that every single person in the world on earth has something to give to their community. And if we enable that to happen, it gives them confidence, brings them into the community, and helps them grow as well. So we are very big on people helping each other. And just one example, you see the picture on top. This is, we taught 550 farmers the system of rice intensification. So you need less water, you need less labor, and you can double your crop, almost double. And then those 550 women taught 1,100 women, who then taught 2,200 women farmers. So that's how the cascade and the skills grow. And amazingly, around the world, there is feminization of agriculture and feminization of poverty, because in a lot of countries we work in, the men go off to the city to work, leaving the wife and children behind in the village. And now the woman is a farmer and she's doing everything else she was doing before that, right? So that's how the world is set up. And we need to, Congressman Bowman talked about maternity leave. And that's like, what do you do if you're a really poor woman and you don't even have a job yet? Or you're an entrepreneur, can you even take that time off? So then women take on this extra responsibility on top of everything. So Cascade of Learning is about children's education. And amazingly, in this country also, so many children do not have adequate access to education. So particularly, I did some work in NYCHA Housing, New York City Housing Authority, housing in New York City. And in one particular project that we were working with, 70% of the students between the ages of 16 and 24 did not have a high school degree and were not in school. So that's like going to perpetuate poverty. So we have this system that younger adults or older children, they mentor somebody 3 years or more younger than them, making sure they stay and succeed in school. So there's a daily check-in. Did you go to school today? If not, why not? And did you have a problem with your math homework? Let me help you with that. Because once children start to fall back, they lose interest and it's not interesting for them to go to school. And the mothers told me that they're all, how can you compete with video games, right? So you have to. So this mentoring system, right now we have 9,000 students in that. And it's really helping students improve their grades. So this is examples of Cascade of Learning in different countries. In India, for example, children who are helping younger children, they can then update their computer skills or learn coding so that even if they're in the village, they can do an online job. This is the farming project that I was talking about, where the women farmers learned SRI. It's a system of rice cultivation. Maybe it's an interesting statistic that 40% of the methane gas in the atmosphere comes from rice paddies. So that was the system of growing rice around the world, but it creates methane because the water reacts with the chemicals in the ground, like fertilizers and so on, and it releases methane. So this system that we are teaching people will improve their yield, but also reduce the methane gas. So everything we do has to be pro-women, pro-environment. This is a very dry area in India where the drought meant that farmers could only get one crop instead of 2 or 3 that they used to get. Because around the world, so much water is being pulled out of the aquifers and thrown in the fields and then contaminating the rivers. So with my university, my Columbia University urban design students, we worked on the Mississippi River. And the Mississippi River is like the lifeline of United States, 42% of US drains into that river. And it was totally contaminated. And in many places, it was declared dead. It's a dead river because nothing can live in it. It's so contaminated. Why? Because all the farms around it are using chemicals. It's industrial farming, right? When you think of a farmer, you have this very rosy image of a, farmer in the dell. But actually, it's all industrial farming. And we found out that many of the farms were actually owned by investment companies in New York. Not farmers in Mississippi. And they were using chemicals and they were doing monocropping. Monocropping means you're just doing soybean or something, and that depletes the soil. So you have to put in more fertilizers, and then all that goes into the Mississippi River, kills the fish and wildlife. And they were cutting off the wetlands. Wetlands are a super important ecological system. And a river needs wetlands to, when there's extra water, it goes into the wetland, then it comes back. So there's a living system. But that system had been cut off by the Army Corps of Engineers, throwing concrete wherever they saw a problem and building bunds. So, environment needs help. And so all our work actually, takes that into account. So this is rainwater harvesting. Communities earn socks for rainwater harvesting. Yeah. And these are sock stars. And this is our work in Taiwan. We were invited by the government of Taiwan. And in New York City, I mentioned to you that we are working with communities. So these are the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals, and 17 goals. And actually, all of them cannot be met unless women are empowered. So women is not just goal 5, but I think it's all the goals. And I just want to close this by saying that the former UN Secretary General Ban Ki-moon, who's passionate about women's empowerment. He's our patron, and we have made a Ban Ki-moon Award for Women's Empowerment, which we give every year. So with that, I thank you very much for the opportunity to speak to you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Mehta, for those inspiring remarks. I must say, the idea of social capital credits is really a good one, and we should be using it in New York State, just like you were talking about in those housing projects. I mean, imagine if everybody were getting social capital credits for the humanitarian work they do. That would be wonderful. Anyway, I did forget in my introduction, I forgot to mention that Geeta serves on the New York City Mayor's Waterfront Management Advisory Board and several other boards. My career in the UN was in water resources. I don't know if you knew that, but and it was all about helping women, reducing their burden of carrying water. It's a huge effort for women. Okay, thank you very much. What an inspiring career and what an exciting project. So now I am delighted to introduce our moderator and program co-chair, Nicole Butterfield. She is a writer, educator, and healthy relationships advocate who has been based in Mamaroneck since 1998, working in local schools and nonprofits, including Girls Inc. in Westchester County. A lifelong athlete, listen to this, in her early 50s, Nicole raised $15,000 by running the Boston, New York, and Wine Glass marathons. Currently serves on UNA Westchester's board and on the board of Spiral Giving. A self-employed educational consultant, she helps students and families apply to colleges and independent schools. She has reached thousands of students, parents, and school staff members through her speaking engagements on healthy relationships. And she's looking forward to giving the keynote address at the Clark Scholars Sexual Assault Awareness and Prevention Month, early in April. She sees education as critical to economic empowerment and is currently seeking opportunities to help underserved communities apply and thrive at college. Too bad you can't get some social capital credits.
Yeah.
Thank you, please.
So I'm going to invite our honorees to come and sit at the table so I can introduce them and you can see them. So please come on up and have a seat. I'm so excited that you're all here and that they're here today. And yes, Javette and then Geronti, please. So I'd like to first make sure everyone's comfortable. So take a moment. Okay. Hi. So first, I'd like to tell you a little bit about my neighbor in Mamaroneck, Geronti Martinez. I've been an admirer of Geronti from afar for many years, living in Mamaroneck myself since 1998, and seeing her in action, helping our community through a lot of environmental-based challenges, among others. We have severe flooding that happens in Mamaroneck, and I recall one day after the Community Resource Center that Geronti leads was completely destroyed in a flood, that she and her staff were out in a parking lot at a folding table helping people. And I really feel like that says it all. Yeah. So I'd like you to know a little bit about her background. Geronti holds a BA in Justice Studies and Humanities from the John Jay College of Criminal Justice, and a Master's of Public Administration from the Marx School of Public and International Affairs of Baruch College. She's also a member of the class of 2013 of the Hispanic Federation Hispanic Leadership Institute, and was honored as one of the 30 under 30 by Westchester Wunderkinds in 2018. And she is a New York State Woman of Distinction in 2022, and a Crane's Notable Hispanic Leader also in that year. She's currently the vice president of the board of nonprofit Westchester. And I know we have a lot of people here who have connections with that organization. And she also represents the Community Resource Center on several local committees. I want to tell you a little bit more about the Community Resource Center and her tenure there. So Geronti is a native of Mamaroneck, and she is the daughter of hardworking Colombian immigrants. And she began at the Community Resource Center as a volunteer ESL teacher in 2008. And as we stand here in 2024, she has been with that organization for all these years and is now their leader, their executive director. They're celebrating their 25th anniversary, and they have shown incredible innovation in community-centered services and leadership. They now provide comprehensive and direct client social and immigration services. So there's more information about the center over in the corner of the room if you want to take a look there later. So welcome, Geronti.
Thank you.
Also at our table, I'm very honored to introduce Javette Hines. And she is the head of supply chain development, inclusion, and sustainability at Citi. She leads Citi's efforts to ensure the inclusion of diverse firms within Citi's sourcing practice in line with the Citi Sustainable Progress Strategy, the Sustainable Development Goals, and global expansion. This includes working to ensure that diverse suppliers have an understanding of environmental, social, and governance metrics. Javette has over 25 years of experience in supply chain leadership, diversity, and law, including 11 years at IBM. I wanted to just mention that phrase supply chain, which we all became intimately acquainted with during the pandemic. And I don't think we always think of the people who are behind that, thinking about and trying to solve problems on a large scale. And so just wanted to acknowledge that. Javette has served on many boards, including the Sustainable Purchasing Leadership Council, the National Minority Supplier Development Council, the Women's Leadership Board of the Women in Public Policy Program at the Harvard Kennedy School, and the New York, New Jersey Minority Supplier Development Council, among others. She's a member of the New York State Bar Association, the New York City Bar, and the American Bar Association, and was recently admitted to practice before the bar of the Supreme Court of the United States. She is also a life member of both of our co-sponsors, Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority and the Links Incorporated. Yes. As well as Jack and Jill of America Westchester chapter. She holds a Bachelor of Science in Middle Grades Education, a Juris Doctor from Wake Forest University School of Law, a certificate in Human Rights from the Leitner Center for International Law and Justice, and a certificate in Diversity and Inclusion from Cornell. We're thrilled to have you here today.
Thank you.
So I'm going to ask Gerondy to speak first. I'm going to have a seat. Sit right to speak.
Cards with questions if people
Oh, right.
questions.
Sorry. You can sit to speak if you're comfortable.
Oh, whatever.
Yeah. Actually, no, I'm wrong. I'm sorry.
Okay.
Yeah.
Whatever
In
works.
case people want to ask questions, raise your hand and Craig or one of his students will give you.
Anybody have a question? Please raise your hand and
Yes.
so you can jot down your question.
And for our Zoom audience, you can put questions into the chat. Okay.
Keep your hand up and we'll bring the cards to you.
Great. And so I just wanted to mention, we had wanted this part of the event to be more of a salon style. So that's why I'm going to have our two honorees speak from the table about their background, and then we're going to do a little panel discussion. Okay. Thank you so much.
Hello, thank you. Can you hear me? Buenas tardes. I am deeply, I don't know if you can hear me. Okay. I am deeply honored and humbled to be here with you all today. And I really want to thank the UNA Westchester for recognizing the hard work that I'm privileged to do as the Executive Director of Community Resource Center. Nicole mentioned I'm the daughter of Colombian immigrants and a domestic worker. I'm incredibly proud of that. And actually, my mom and my dad are here today. The mission of CRC is to empower and advocate for Westchester's immigrant families. And that resonates so deeply with me oh, thank you. And that resonates so deeply with me on a personal level. Because I understand firsthand what it's like to be seen and heard and connected to opportunities that lead to economic advancement and progress. This understanding obviously fuels so much of my passion and why I've dedicated 15 plus years to the organization I work for. At CRC, we're dedicated to tailoring our programs and services to meet the specific needs of individuals who are often marginalized and unseen. All of our programs and services inform one another. So, for example, most of the people who come to our organization are coming for work opportunities or job training or housing and legal services. But we know that an individual can't put a roof over their head without knowing that they should take English classes, but also advocacy for housing rights. Job training is so important, but we need to provide that in a language that they understand and by people who look like them and speak like them and are them. So part of that is just, it's so important for me and our organization to employ the people who really understand that and focus on people's human rights and workers' rights and advocacy. Once people secure food and their housing needs, then they enroll their children in schools, and we help them do that. And I really just want to say how important local organizations are, grassroots organizations are. And I know that we're speaking on women's economic empowerment on a very global scale and also on a national scale. But we also have to focus on it locally, right? And so Community Resource Center is based here in Westchester County. And I see so many young people in the audience and just wanting to show that you have power and you are able to get very involved in local community-based organizations that are making huge strides to change our women's economy. So for example, let me switch my slide here. So when we're recognizing the reality of our community and the fact that most Latina and Black women are absolutely at the lowest ranks of economic advancement, human rights. They face a lot of discrimination, especially people who are suffering from undocumented status or living in mixed status homes. That's why we focus so much on empowering people with programs that they want and see and need to see. I'm sorry, this is fast. So in 2010, we actually began the Building Our Future program. It's an initiative, a workforce development initiative that really entails a lot of what I just mentioned. So we know that people can't just take an English class. They have to do workers advancement and job training. But we also couple that with wraparound case management services and workers' rights and advocacy. And so Building Our Future really turned into a small program trying to advance people's access to work opportunities and is now our premier social justice program based on workforce development. But we don't stop there. I think it's so important for us to know that community-based organizations cannot just provide programs and services. They have to be advocating for change in our community. We absolutely have to be involved in policies and legislation that are keeping us poor and keeping us from accessing what we need to advance in this community. So CRC is really proud to be a huge advocacy organization very tied to our mission. And so since we're talking about women's empowerment, and obviously that's so important to me, I just want to highlight one of the programs that we offer through our Building Our Future initiative. It's the We Rise program, and it's focused on domestic workers. So house cleaners, nannies, people who are taking care of our elderly folks. These women are not only training to provide those services to the community in a really healthy way, and learning about their rights and how do you handle contract, how do you ask for wages that are secure enough to live in this county, but also are protecting you from wage theft. We're also connecting people to support groups and training and peer-to-peer leadership. So I'm so proud of a program that starts with training and leads to women's leadership and economic advancement. So for example, Marta Carballo, who started with us when she was suffering from domestic violence. I actually want to shout out Hope Store, who's in the room. They are one of our partners for handling domestic violence in our community. But Marta came to us 20 years ago as a victim of domestic violence, received services, then took our adult literacy program that was really focused on primary and secondary education because Marta hadn't finished her schooling in her country. And after years, she became so much more involved in leadership and finding her voice. She started taking the We Rise nanny training programs and realized that she had much more power than she gave herself credit for. And through the work at CRC, she's now not only a client that's receiving our services, she's a community leader and one of the We Rise Nanny training community members. So she's doing the peer-to-peer. She's also going to Albany almost every week with our community to advance our legislative policy priorities. And that's just, yay. Yay, Martha. Thank you. That's one of the the recent We Rise Nanny training graduation. So this is domestic workers empowering other domestic workers to find dignity in their work, do it safely, and then also become community leaders. So I'm super proud of that work. And then also with the Building Our Future program, we have a huge number of trainings. But I want to highlight that I think when people think of Community Resource Center and they see us, we're largely Latina-led, Latina women-led, and I'm so proud of my team for that. But we also empower immigrants from other countries, not just Central and South America. So Millie from Haiti came over. She's 22 years old and so proud to have completed her Surf Safe restaurant training that now has secured her a job in a restaurant. But she's also using what she learned to make her home safer. And I think that when you are making an impact with a program that not only helps you secure a better job, but also helps you to make a huge change in your life, that's impact. That's what a community-based organization can do. So I'm super proud of Millie, who comes to us from Haiti and what she's done with our Surf Safe program. And this is just a picture of our ESL classes that have grown from maybe 5 people in an English class to 22 to 29 people from all different countries, whether that's Japan or Guatemala or Mexico and France. It's about building community, which you had mentioned, and that's so impactful. Anita, who took our OSHA training and our basic construction training, is now helping her son build his kitchen. So I just think that again, you're making changes in a community, in a person's life that is changing the fabric of their family. And then we have Gloria, who took our high school equivalency program with her son because her son took our classes. And then he was like, Mom, you should finish your high school equivalency. Why don't we do it together? So I think, again, I'm just so proud of the work that we're doing at the Community Resource Center. As you mentioned, I am the vice president of the nonprofit Westchester. We're also members of the Westchester Women's Agenda. And we're taking this a step further, right? So it's not just about the community-based organizations or the work that we're doing at CRC, but it's also about advancing the nonprofit sector. In Westchester County, 20% of workforce works in nonprofits. So I also feel really strongly about putting nonprofits on the map, especially for people who are coming out of college. And, you know, you're thinking about what your career could be. Please consider the nonprofit sector. We're really trying to advance this sector and wanting people who, again, look like the people we're serving to make a huge difference and an impact. And we actually want you to help us make this sector respected and dignified. We should be paid as much as the for-profit sector, because we're actually making a huge impact and a huge change to advance communities. So I also always want to put a plug in for the nonprofit sector, of which Community Resource Center is such a huge part of. So thank you. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Can folks hear me if I speak like this? No, it's not going to the mic. Okay. It is your turn, Jovet. We'd love to hear from you.
Good afternoon, everyone.
This afternoon.
I'm going to try, I know that we're running against time, so I'm going to try within 5 minutes to kind of bring light to supply chain management first and foremost. As Nicole said, of course, when supply chain as a word to me or in our household became popular, it was during the pandemic. And that was not necessarily in a good way. Every time we turned on the news and there was a problem, they say, it's the supply chain, it's the supply chain, it's the supply chain. However, the supply chain really is the engine that keeps things running. And I have been a part of supply chain management at this point in my career with 26 years, 11 years at IBM, 16 years at Citigroup. And what supply chain is really, we're talking about the purchase of goods and services for the benefit of people, for the benefit of getting things done, right? And so that could include our food services, the chairs that we're sitting in, the mics that we're utilizing, our computers, the food services. It is everything, right? So of course, yes, when the supply chain fails and does not necessarily go right, whether it is a pandemic or a climate change, climate disruption, or whatever it might be, there's a challenge with the supply chain. For my purposes, I am a part of the procurement process. So the procurement organization along with third-party risk management. So part of that team that is called sourcing, that really works with our lines of business to take a look at what are the goods and services we need to purchase on behalf of the corporation. And at the same time, taking a look at who is it that we are choosing to purchase these goods and services, and what are the risks that we also want to make sure that we take a look at. And so a number of things, a number of words have been mentioned today when we're talking about the social aspect, but even the business aspect. And so as an example, human rights, labor law consideration, things of that nature are important. And so I just want to say those things very quickly for me. So directly what I do is I manage our supply chain development, inclusion, and sustainability program. And that is first and foremost taking a look at what suppliers do we currently do business with, and making sure that diverse suppliers have a seat at the table. That, of course, includes women. The other part of my job where the inclusion piece comes into play is when I came to Citi, we were not necessarily global with respect to our supplier diversity efforts in 2008, although we were looking at the UK and had a membership in a place. But for me, once we got to the point of changing the title of the department from supplier diversity to supply chain or to supply diversity and sustainability, it really became a point of saying, well, no, let's think about supply chain development, inclusion, and sustainability. Because what I do is, one, making sure that we're taking a look at diverse suppliers to make sure they all have a seat at the table. The second piece of that is the inclusion element, looking at it globally and understanding that in all of our global pieces across the globe, diversity as a word is not necessarily something that resonates, and you can get into privacy issues, but inclusion, everyone understands. Sustainability, everyone understands. How do things work? What is required to make things work? What access is necessary? What are the food insecurities that are potentially problematic? What are the human rights and labor law considerations that exist? So with that in consideration for me, it was really critical at the point where we went, in fact, from the Millennium Goals with respect to the UN to the Sustainable Development Goal to start to align what we do in the supplier diversity and sustainability space to the Sustainable Development Goals. That way, it makes sense for everyone. When you look at the Sustainable Development Goals and we say as a world, we want to get to all of these goals by 2030, okay, then that's easy because we can all, easy enough for us to see it, right? And to understand it. Because when you're talking about gender equality, number 5, when you're talking about reducing inequalities, number 10, when you're talking about decent work and economic growth, that resonates across the board, no matter where you are. And so that is all encompassing when you're talking about ethnic minorities, when you're talking about women, when you're talking about people with disabilities, the LGBTQIA community, veterans, everyone. So that was the first thing for us, was to really start aligning supplier diversity, supply chain sustainability with the UN Sustainable Development Goals. And to continue to talk about it in that way, even with respect to our sourcing teams. The good thing about that also is that when it came time to start to think about, okay, you have a program, city supplier diversity since 1977 in the United States, proper, but what are the goals that you actually have in place to drive change? Do you have specific goals in place for you actually to begin to look at what are you spending? With whom are you spending it? How often are you spending it? And how are you tracking it? And by the way, where are there gaps, right? Do women are women continue to evolve? And if not, then what do we consider in terms of making that happen? And then other areas as well. So when we start to think about from a global perspective with supplier diversity and looking at the other regions, it was an opportunity for me as I worked with UN Women at that time to go to India, to go to South Africa, to go to Brazil, to really think about what resonates locally as it relates to diversity and inclusion and reducing inequalities. What does the dollar mean there? The dollar in this sense being in Brazil, in South Africa, in India. And then what are the industries that we need to think about? Because it's not necessarily going to be in certain countries where women are actually the ones making computers. It may be leading learning and development. It may be software. It may be, architecture. It may be a number of different things. So my thing over the past couple of years is to really start to hone in on and try to understand who are the suppliers that we are doing business with from a corporate perspective, period. But then who are the diverse suppliers and where are they really huge suppliers? Where there are smaller suppliers, where are the gaps so that we can continue to do better? So fast forward with respect to the sustainable development goals, it's been really critical for one to make sure that if we have a goal to think about what that goal means. So for us, again, having a program since 1977, that's wonderful, it's great, it sounds good, but not necessarily if you don't have goals to really try to drive change. And so I think it was probably not until around 2015, 2016, we really started to be very intentional about our goals, right? Very specific goals, not 5% to increase the next year or 10%, but what are the very specific goals we're going to have to look at? How do we forecast looking at from a sourcing perspective, where have we increased, if it's on the IT side the year before, if it's software, if it's whatever it might be, what are the opportunities that come forward or where there are no opportunities? So I want to just very quickly say, one of the things that we do in addition to it's not just city work, and we work with a number of different nonprofit organizations, for profit per se, the National Minority Supplier Development Council, Women's Business Enterprise National Council, We Connect International, National Gay Lesbian Chamber of Council, and of course, the Veterans Administration, et cetera. With respect to women in particular, WBENC, Women's Business Enterprise National Council, is our U.S. pillar that we work with. They certify women-owned businesses. The key thing for us in the supply chain, whether it's Citigroup or any company, is really taking a look to understand certification means, is this business in fact 51% owned, operated, managed, and controlled? And having validation of that. And that is the key thing for us to understand via those organizations who go do the site visits that yes, Joanne is who she says she is. She owns a business. She's connected. She has her own board. She's able to pay people. And then with We Connect does business in 140 countries at this point. We're not in all of those countries, and we're in over 100 countries, and we have boots on the ground 96. But with respect to supplier diversity, it was not my intent to go to every single country because I have to have the right people in place as champions. So with We Connect, though, however, what they have are people, they have individuals located in South Africa, Kenya, Nigeria. What we've been able to do on the supply chain side there is to have champions in each of those spaces, whether it is Chennai or Pune or Bangalore, or again, South Africa or Kenya or the UK, who are part of the sourcing organizations. They don't work for me. They are my champions. I meet with them once a month. We talk about our goals. We talk about forecasting, and we start to figure out, working with We Connect, what is going to be our next goal. So in 2017, of course, we stood on the stage with Global Citizen to make a decision and a declaration to increase our spend to over 100 million with women. And yay, we did that because we're now 200 million with respect to women. But the larger goal for us was really, how do we get to $1 billion and become a part of the $1 billion roundtable and all of that? And so we've done that, part of the $1 billion roundtable, but it doesn't stop there, because that just makes you be more intentional about, great, you're spending $1 billion, but again, where are you spending it? Is it with the same suppliers? Are there net new opportunities? How do you make sure that what you do aligns with the business? So I'm going to get ready to close, because again, I know we're really going over time, but I just wanted to say, from a supply chain perspective, it's really critical for us to look at what the opportunities are, identify very specific goals with respect to how we spend, take a look at not just tracking spend, but what are the actual opportunities that we're identifying day to day, really taking a look at how do we introduce net new businesses so that they have a seat at the table to come to city, and really working via the National Minority Supplier Development Council and others, being transparent. They're not going to always be small businesses that do business with a large corporation. It will tend to be very large businesses who happen to be diverse, who can do business with us nationally and globally to meet our needs. But at the same time, for those who are small, that is where we look at those opportunities for those niche kind of projects, for those projects where we can see an opportunity to build scaled over time. And how we work with those organizations is to build capacity, continuing with workshops, et cetera. Finally, the CRQ, Corporate Responsibility Questionnaire, that is what we utilize to ask all suppliers, including diverse suppliers, to really give us a sense from an emissions perspective, what is happening, to give us a sense from a human rights and labor law perspective, what are your practices and your policies that you have in place so that they resonate with what we say is important to us. And then I'll just show one final thing. This is a guide to corporate sustainability. There are certain things for me that are like my Bible, because I do work very closely with UN Women, UN Global Compact. And so for me, it is the guide to corporate sustainability. It is the UN guiding principles on business and human rights. And then it's a document that I worked on directly with UN Women, and it is called The Power of Procurement: How to Source from Women-Owned Businesses. So I know our time is limited. I would just suggest, if you have the opportunity, you can go to the web, and I'm happy to share more at another point in time. Thank you.
Thank you. So yes, we are a little bit pressed for time, but I do want to ask you a few questions, and I'm going to actually start with the one I usually close with, just in case we run long. So in this room and in our Zoom audience, we have people who want to take action and get involved. Young people, older people, everybody, it runs the gamut. Do you have suggestions specifically for perhaps our audience members or anyone watching later on, because this will be available for you all on YouTube? What can folks do if they want to get involved and really help with women's empowerment in your area, right? Whatever you want to say about that.
I'll just say very quickly, because I'm on the business and the corporate side. So from a business and corporate side, I'll say this: if someone happens to be an entrepreneur, the key thing, of course, is I'm happy to talk to you at any time, but really take a look at the organizations I mentioned: the National Minority Supplier Development Council, Women's Business Enterprise National Council, and we connect, because with those organizations, beyond them taking a look to certify you, that's where you have the opportunity for workshops, to participate, et cetera. And even my daughter last year, I had her participate in a WeBank session. She came to the conference just like we did. She got her little badge and she walked around like she was an entrepreneur, so she could learn what it was like to have to talk to people and build her own business if she were to do that. So happy to spend more time sharing with anyone.
Love that. So obviously a community-based organization is always looking for volunteers. So that's something, if educational programs resonate with you, or if you have a specific skill that you'd like to teach, we can help you do that. We certainly have an audience for that. If you're a college student and you're looking for internships, please come connect with Community Resource Center and all of the nonprofits in the nonprofit sector. You can certainly find out more information on Nonprofit Westchester for other opportunities. But if advocacy is your passion, or you want to learn how to talk to government and our local elected officials, which is so important, you want to talk to Congressman Bowman, come and connect with us, because we will take you to DC, we'll take you to Albany, you'll talk with everyone to advance human rights.
Thank you. And I just, for Asia initiatives, we are also always looking for volunteers. We do have an advisory board, we have a junior board, and we work with a lot of volunteers. But also, if you're connected with an organization that you think could use social capital credits methodology, we are very happy to work with you and, set up the system for you and support you. So please let us know. Thank you.
Do you each have some specific advice for women and girls about how they can empower themselves in the workforce as we're still facing gender pay gaps and other challenges, including childcare?
I'll just first my advice for women are number one, to know your worth. Know your worth. You are absolutely worthy of advocating for yourself, knowing that you have a voice. Certainly finding mentors. I was a mentee to a mentor. I'm happy to be a mentor. There are so many of us that are trying to help one another. So never settle for something less. I think you absolutely have to know your worth. But again, nothing changes without advocacy. So we must make a change with our voice. We have to talk to people. If there's a gender inequality gap, why aren't we talking about it at the county, state, and federal levels? We need to keep advancing our own voices, and we're happy to do that and mobilize and organize because it's the only way we're going to make a change.
I'll just say for me, one of the things that I really appreciate is the opportunity to engage with my organization. So Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority Incorporated, there are countless things that we do with respect to support and engagement. And then obviously, of course, certainly with the Links Incorporated Westchester chapter, being very involved with our life program for many years has provided an opportunity to be engaged with schools, to talk about sustainable development goals, to visit the UN. And so for me, one of the things that I would definitely suggest, whether someone is in an organization or in an academic institution, really go and take a look, like even at the UN website, taking a look at some of the documents that I mentioned, but going and take a look at the WEPs, like the Women's Empowerment Principles, and really educating yourself on what does that mean for me? And if I'm a small business owner and I want to get to the next stage, what am I doing currently based on what those things say a woman-owned business or a business should be doing? But I think to the point that you also made, which is so critical, is to truly know our worth. It is so very easy to be in a corporate job or even be a small business and presume that you are making exactly what you should be, only to find out you're actually $50,000 less or even $100,000 less compared to someone else. So you must know your worth. You must understand, if you're a business, how does a business that you currently are in compare to someone else, right? Who's been in the business perhaps 5 years, 10 years, whatever. Truly understand that. And then understand the local laws and customs that protect you. And then if you anticipate working abroad and working with a company that's in another jurisdiction, definitely making sure that you understand from a human rights, labor law perspective, as you engage with other people, really taking a look at those contracts, making sure that you protect yourself with respect to third-party risk management, identifying the risk.
Thank you. I'm just going to echo what has been said so well by my co-panelists, because there has been research that if a man is asked in a job interview, right, what his skills are, they will inflate the skills, and a woman will deflate her skills. This is proven. So I think this is a very important thing, that don't undersell yourself, don't underestimate yourself. So yeah, I think this is super important.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. Yes. So we're going to try to do a little speed round of questions. If you had a question and you're in the audience and you have a note card that you need to give to someone, or if the Clark Scholars have note cards for me, can you bring them up here? And in the meanwhile, I'm going to turn it over to Colleen, who has a mic and has been monitoring the Zoom chat for questions from our online audience. So Colleen, are you all set?
Yes,
Yeah,
thanks,
go ahead.
Nicole. Good afternoon, everybody.
Good afternoon.
We have a great question from one of our board members, Dan Baina, the famous Dan. He says, for Gita, I have been a fan and advocate of SOCCs for years. It has the potential to be truly transformative. How can you scale that?
Thank you for that question, Dan, my dear friend.
Yes.
Yes, so at the moment, we serve about 120,000 people every year. But the program is open source and it can be used by many communities. So yes, we are very open to scaling it and we have the methodology and skills to do that. I just want to also take this opportunity to mention that the Sustainable Development Goals that Javed talked about, we are going to fail. We're not going to make them, right? Most of the goals, we are at about 30%, and 2030 is right around the corner. So I would say that, yes, to scale them up with any of our organizations, get active and help to scale them up. Thank you.
Okay. One person on Zoom sort of blended a couple of topics, and she is asking about corporate sustainability and how it's failed the environment and what can be done. So that's a combination of women's issues and global issues.
I would just say the key thing, of course, is to really continue to think about what actual laws exist and policies and practices are in place, because you have to have certainly things in place for you to follow and to be held accountable for. So I think we're starting to see a number of different regulatory requirements come into play with respect to the environment, and certainly even with the SEC just last week, we saw that. And in Europe, of course, you have the Corporate Social Responsibility Directive, you have the Corporate Social Due Diligence Directive. So there in Canada, you have human rights, you have a number of different things here, just even in the United States, right? Whether it's California or Florida or Texas or here in New York, really taking a look from an environmental perspective, and certainly especially California, but then looking at things from a human rights perspective. So I think it's a matter of what are the laws that exist, making sure that we understand what those laws are, holding people accountable, and then being actively engaged ourselves individually as well as when we work for others.
Sounds good. Thank
Maybe
you.
one more.
Okay, one more from the audience.
One more from the audience.
Yep. How can the international community effectively address certain religious mindsets that hold back women's progress and their human rights?
I can start with that because what's happening internationally right now, it's a really not a happy moment in history with all those wars. We hear much about Ukraine and what's going on in Gaza, but actually there are like 25 active wars going on, you know, whether it's Ethiopia or Congo. So I think the first thing is for us to, as US is such a powerful country, and for citizens of US to show that empathy and advocate for that empathy to our leaders, because you know, women's empowerment does not happen when there's war. It actually slides back hugely. So I would say that advocacy to our own politicians and governments to go for peace rather than support wars.
The other thing I would just say very quickly also is we have, with our children, we have to make sure that our kids understand what's happening also. And to the point that's made, it's not just the US. We live here, we live in New York, but we are global citizens. And so we really have to make sure that our kids understand that, yes, it's not just the wars we see on TV, you know, paying attention to the BBC, paying attention to different newspapers to understand what's going on from an economic perspective. And then looking at those sustainable development goals that, yes, 2030 is around the corner, so it's going to be challenging, but what are the different targets within there for them to understand so that we can collectively be engaged.
And if I could just add, obviously religion has a huge impact on women's empowerment. And I know that the Emlyn Theater in Mamaroneck will be hosting a movie to talk about women in priesthood. So what better way to advance women in religion than allowing them to lead in religious industries and institutions? So I would invite you. I'm going to be going to the Emlyn Theater to learn more about this. So if you are interested in this, I invite you to also attend that. It's on Tuesday. I don't have the time, but it's this Tuesday evening.
12.
Yes, this Tuesday evening. Yes, the Emlyn Theater in Mamaroneck, the smaller theater behind the library. I'm sorry. I don't have all the information off the top of my head, but I do know that that's happening on Tuesday. So I will be attending and I invite you to come with me.
Thank you. So I really appreciate that the audience generated more questions than we had time for, and I will talk with the panelists afterward and see if we can get some of those answered offline.
10 more minutes.
10 more, oh, do you think? Our president says we have 10 more minutes. So Colleen, please come back. And I also, I did want to ask one more, just a quick
Yes,
one at the end.
we have
So
one more question
let's
from
go
the
for it.
audience.
Okay.
And it says, if we want to engage with the community, it is helpful to be on the inside. So people who know the community well are involved. How do we develop these connections efficiently so that we can help communities tackle the problems effectively?
I love that question and that so resonates with me. I agree that in order for us to make a change, we have to be a part of the solution and not just a part of our boards for community-based organizations, but actively volunteering or even saying, you know, I'm a resident of the village of Mamaroneck and I don't see this program being provided. Attending, talking with community-based organizations and saying, why isn't this being provided? It's something that I think the community needs, and how can we make that happen? I think that that's so important. So there are so many ways to get involved, whether that's volunteering or serving on a community-based boards, organization's board, or even participating as a client and saying, I want to see this. How do you make it happen? We will make it happen. That's part of our job.
I think for me, one of the things I'd like to say myself that while I mentioned Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority Incorporated, which I have to again, Zeta Nu Omega chapter is my chapter, and the Links Incorporated, these are wonderful organizations for me. But I will say that even as a person who is a licensed attorney and all this other stuff, I'm not as actively engaged, and I want to be. I would like to be a teacher. Providing more information in these local schools, you know, as an adjunct professor, really talking about supply chain management to make sure that it does not continue to be that people of color are left behind and don't understand what opportunities are and where we need to be. So I think it's a matter of one, the question that was asking. So of course, UNA Westchester, you see some folks want to be involved. So I think, you know, maybe perhaps Nicole also sharing how can people get more involved. But I know personally, I want to do more to actively utilize my skills than what I'm actually currently doing.
Our Westchester Women's Agenda. If you'd like to join Westchester Women's Agenda, that's a great opportunity as well.
And we'll hope to see you there.
Yes.
One more?
No, I was just going to say that AKA and the links on Zoom, and they're giving you a shout out. I also wanted to point out that Ronnie over there, our membership committee president, is there to sign people up. Membership is free for those who are 25 and under, and $50 a year, and it's well worth it.
Absolutely.
Those are our questions.
That's great.
Thank you, everybody.
So thank you. My very last question for you is for the young. My very last question for you is for the young people who often express to me, I'm an educator, so I talk to a lot of young people. They often express a sense of powerlessness or hopelessness. So why should they have hope for the future? Yeah.
I will start with that because I have to tell you that when I was a young woman, I thought that the older people were smarter and wiser. Well, now I know that was not the case. Because the world is changing so fast and young people have the skills and fresh ideas. And, you know, whether it's Greta Thunberg or whether it's other youth leaders, they are the ones who are bold and coming forward and, you know, giving ideas. So I think our job is to support them. So young people should not feel disempowered, but you should feel like leaders, and all of us, you know, we are here to support you. So this is actually a time for radical change in the world. We need that to solve some of the radical major problems we are facing. So yeah, it's the time, it's the era of young people.
Thank you.
I like the concept of radical change and making sure that our kids in this generation, they feel very empowered anyway in terms of how they speak, because we have required that they be a little bit more independent than we are. So we got to just make sure that they feel that that means you can also be actionable and you can start your own things. But I do have to give a shout out to UNA Westchester, UNA USA Westchester. They have had so many different programs over the past couple of years where youth have been able to participate. So my daughter, as an example, last year with respect to CEDAW, she participated in something. And so there are so many ways to get involved directly with the youth that are providing. I do appreciate that, and even seeing something on the table. But I think we just keep telling them, encouraging them, motivating them, and letting them know you are the future, not so there's pressure on them, but just to really have them think about, you really are the future. This is your world too. So think about what you want to do, how you want to leave it, and what's important to you, and just encourage them in that way.
And I'll just be, I'm not so young anymore, but I was, when I started at the Community Resource Center, I was 21 years old. I had never really volunteered anywhere. So I'm so proud of young people in high school and middle school getting involved in their communities now, because that's something I didn't do until later in my life. But I started leading the organization at 29. And I do have to say that sometimes, like, even I ask myself, what am I doing this for? Where's the hope? But then I turn around and I'm like, well, what's the alternative? There is no alternative. We have to have hope. We have to change the world and society so that we can continue to live, and not just for us, but for you. So I really, I hope that you wake up and realize that sometimes we even are looking for that, and you're giving us hope to continue, and you're also going to be taking the legacy from us to lead locally and globally.
Thank you so much.
Thank all three of you so much. Can you hear me? Yes, okay. So I want to invite Marcia Brewster back up. We have some gifts for you. And Brenda is coming also. So I'm going to make room.
And you have.
And I do, yeah.
We got some beautiful proclamations for our honorees from Congressman Bowman. And they have so much detail about your career, Jorandi. You.
Thank you.
And here's a certificate from UNA. And here's a gift.
Well, thank you.
And Brenda.
I have one for my soror and big sister. To Attorney Hines. We are just so proud. We very much are proud of you. And you have given outstanding information to us today, has she not?
Yes.
And so I'd like to present these to you. And here's one from the Nations Association of the United States of America, is continue with the very fine work that you are doing.
And this wonderful proclamation from Jamal Bowman, our congressional proclamation.
Yes.
I would like to have some pictures taken for any photographers out there. Let's Brenda get behind. Yes, please.
Maybe you want people to scan.
Oh, you sit down.
Okay. We also have this gift for you. This is from the UNA of Westchester. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Oh, I'm sorry. Are we not showing? Okay.
The proclamation.
Oh, yeah.
You should show the
Okay.
proclamation, yeah. It's from the Congress, you know?
Yeah.
Wonderful.
That's
And so
beautiful.
our Link sisters are here. And members of Alpha Kappa Alpha are also here. They can join with us today in these outstanding presentations.
Yes. And we wanted to thank all of our co-sponsors and especially Manhattanville College. Okay. Yeah.
Just later. Okay.
So, wow, sorry, I shouldn't have touched that. So I really want to thank you all and let you know there's more
planned for today. We have some singers who are also Clark Scholars who are coming up to sing some songs. I asked them to think about songs that made them feel a sense of empowerment as women. So could the singers come up, please? Yeah.
Hi everyone, it's me, Luniva, and today I'll be singing to you guys Scars to You're Beautiful by Alicia Cara. If you guys know the song, please feel free to sing along. So here it goes. She just wants to be beautiful, she goes. Unnoticed, she knows. No limit, she craves. Attention, she praises. An image she prays to be sculpted by the sculptor. Oh, she don't see the light that's shining deeper than her eyes can find it. Maybe we have made her blind, so she tries to cover up her pain, cut her woes away. And covered girls don't cry after their face is made. But there's a hope that's waiting for you in the dark. You should know you're beautiful just the way you are. And you don't have to change a thing, the world can change its heart. No scars to you're beautiful, we're stars and we're beautiful. Oh, 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 and you don't have to change a thing. The world can change its heart. No stars, cause we're beautiful. We're stars and we're beautiful. She has dreams to be and envy, so she's starving, you know, cover girls eat nothing. She says beauty is pain and it's beauty in everything. What's a little bit of hunger? I could go a little bit longer. She fades away. She don't see her perfect. She don't understand she's worth it. Oh, that beauty goes deeper than the surface. Oh, saw that girl that's hurting. Let me be your mirror. Let me be your mirror. Let me help you see a little bit clearer. The light that shines within, 'cause there's a hope that's waiting for you in the dark. You should know you're beautiful just the way you are. And you don't have to change a thing, the world can change its heart. No scars, 'cause you're beautiful. We're stars and we're beautiful. And I want everyone to sing this with me and repeat it after me. So, no better you than the you that you are. No better life than the life we're living. No better time for the time you're a star. There's a hope that's waiting for you in the dark. You should know you're beautiful just the way you are. No stars, you're beautiful. We're stars and we're beautiful.
Hi, everyone. My name is Ray, and I'm going to be singing Warrior by Demi Lovato. So I hope you enjoy it. Here we go, I guess. Okay. This is a story that I have never told.
I gotta get this off my chest to let it go. I need to take back the light inside you stole. You're a criminal, and you steal like you're a pro. All the pain and the truth. Sorry, I wear like a battle wound. So ashamed, so confused. I was broken and bruised. Now I'm a warrior. Now I've got thicker skin. I'm a warrior. I'm stronger than I've ever been. And my armor is made of steel. You can't get in. I'm a warrior. And you can never hurt me again. Out of the ashes, I'm burning like a fire. You can save your apologies. You're nothing but a lie. I've got shame, I've got scars I'll never show. I'm a survivor in more ways than you know. 'Cause all the pain and the truth I wear like a battle wound. So ashamed, so confused. I'm not broken or bruised. 'Cause now I'm a warrior. Now I've got thicker skin. I'm a warrior. I'm stronger than I've ever been. And my armor is made of steel. You can't get in. I'm a warrior. And you can never hurt me. There's a part of me I can't get back. A little girl grew up too fast. And all it took was once. I'll never be the same. Now I'm taking back my life today. Nothing left that you can say. 'Cause you are never gonna take the blame anyway. Now I'm a warrior. 'Cause I've got thicker skin. I'm a warrior. I'm stronger than I've ever been. Now my armor is made of steel. You can't get in. I'm a warrior. And you can never hurt me again.
Wow, that was amazing. Thank you so much. Now I would, yeah, let's give them another hand, shall we? Yes, that was amazing. A lot of courage and amazing talent there. Thank you so much. So I want to thank these wonderful singers, our speaker and honorees for today's event, members of the board and the program committee, especially Dan Baina, Colleen Gardefee, Nico Germanovsky, and Raina Cadwell. We are most grateful to them and to our co-sponsors and our team of volunteers. Many thanks to all of our members and attendees for their active participation. Thank you all for coming out on this 2024 International Women's Day. Thanks so much.